My name's Josh Bear, and this is the first Austin Transportation Meetup. Somebody on Twitter pointed out, quite offended, that this is not the first meetup about transportation in Austin, which is not what we're claiming. This is just a group called the Austin Transportation Group, and it's the first meetup of that. So thanks all for coming to that. There's obviously a lot of other groups doing great things around transportation and bringing people together. As you saw here, if you have a moment, the first link is to make it easy for you to tweet about it and post that you're here. And then there's a Facebook group that is pretty active. It's got over 500 people on it. I'm guessing most of you are on it if you're here tonight. And that's where people are talking about a lot of these issues and sharing links and things like that. There's a meetup group, which is really just about organizing the actual meetup. And we have a fairly new Twitter account, which is TransportATX, which is really, again, just kind of covering the group and the discussions here. And we have the next 3 meetings scheduled, basically monthly on the 4th Monday. So you can see those 7:28, 8:25, and 9:22. And then also, as another note, there's going to be tomorrow evening, there's a happy hour here being put on by Uber that's specifically focused on learning about what they're offering and ride sharing, things like that. So if any of you guys would like to come to that, that's tomorrow here. And let's see, I know we have Chris from Uber here, right there, right? So we have Uber here. Is anybody from Lyft here? And the Monument Group and the others, okay? And then, let's see, I think Ed from Yellow Cab couldn't make it tonight. Anybody from any of the cab companies here? No? All right, and then we got a couple different startups presenting. I know Ride Scout's here I saw, and Key to the Street, and B-Cycle, and then other ones that aren't presenting. We've got Spokefly. Any other transportation-related startups here?
DabNab.
What's it called?
DabNab.
DabNab.
D-A-B-N-A-B.
DabNab.
Metropia.
Metropia. Segway. Okay, cool. We're going to do full intros with everybody soon, but thank you for everybody coming out. I think we have a pretty good representation. Oh.
The City Cap Metro and Project Connector.
Awesome, thanks. So real quickly, I'm just going to do a 5-minute intro on why we're here and how this came together, and then we'll kind of kick off into the agenda. Welcome to, this is Capital Factory, welcome. We host a lot of events here, pretty much a couple every night. I think across the way is the MongoDB meetup going on right now. But mostly this is a place for tech startups. We hosted about 600 events here last year, had about 25,000 people come through for them. So we really enjoy doing this and appreciate you coming out tonight. We also are a Google Tech Hub in North America. There are 8 Google Tech Hubs, and they help make all this possible as well. The event tonight is streaming from that little camera up there. And so if you want the link to that, that's bit.ly/CF life size. The caps matter, has to be capital CFL. And that's provided us from Life Size, which is another local Austin company. And the food and drinks back here are provided by Ride Scout, who's going to be presenting here tonight as well. So thank you, Ride Scout. Give them a round of applause. We really appreciate that. I never knew an app could feed you, but apparently it can. So thanks for stepping up. Appreciate it. Okay, so real quickly, why are we here? At least one take on it. I'm sure we're going to hear a lot of other ones tonight. Austin's growing really fast. Apparently 150 people move here every day. I don't know who counts that. Makes us the fastest growing city in the country. Why are we the fastest growing city? Because every time they come up with a top 10 list, we're like at the top of the list for the best places for jobs or for young people or for startups or for all kinds of different things. And there's people moving here all the time. We have Google Fiber coming here. That's going to actually make even more people move here. It's one more reason why it's a hot place to be. Never mind F1 and X Games and ACL and South by Southwest and everything else. And with that comes lots of cranes. And you can see, where a lot of those people want to be is downtown. It seems like, I think traffic's an issue all over Austin, but it certainly seems, I think everyone would agree, it's the big focus of it is downtown and on 35 and Mopac. And so that's what we get, is lots of traffic. And if there was an ideal world, this is our instant train network all over Austin that would let us get everywhere as one possible answer, but that's obviously not going to happen overnight. And so that kind of leads to talking about different types of solutions. And at least I'm actually feel like I'm fairly new to this issue, but the more people I talk to, the more most people seem to agree that there is no one answer to this. It's like we need everything and all of the answers. And if we take all of the answers, then maybe we can keep up with the growth. But it seems like this is really our biggest challenge to the growth that's happening here in Austin. So the agenda for today, which I had to put together because we hadn't had a meetup yet, but part of the goal of this meetup is to actually figure out what we want to talk about and how future ones would go, we're going to start off to kind of liven things up with, we got 3 startup pitches. We're actually going to have this a little out of order. We're going to start with Key to the Street. And they're going to get 5 minutes to explain what they do, and then we'll have 5 minutes of Q&A. We'll try to keep it moving pretty quickly, but it's always interesting to hear about what startups are doing and tech stuff's happening, and what new stuff's coming. And then what I'd like to do, I think this will be okay if we do it fast, is actually like to go around and have everybody introduce themselves quickly. It'll probably take us 20 or 30 minutes. But say your name, your company, and then we're gonna keep a count up here and just say what issues you're most passionate about. And so we'll know like a sense of how many people are more passionate about transportation, or rail versus ride sharing versus buses versus other things like that. And also kind of who's here as part of the group. And then what I was hoping to do is break up into groups for about 15 minutes, and we'll probably point to the kind of corners of the room and have an area focused on rail, and an area focused on ride sharing, and an area focused on probably biking, and then I think we'll poll everybody to see what the 4th area is. And basically break up and talk for about 15 minutes in that group and make a list of both potential topics you'd want to talk about in the group and speakers that we should bring in over in the upcoming meetings. And then hopefully there'll be a leader in each group that can come back at the end of that and basically just kind of very quickly present to the rest of the group what they talked about, and hopefully that can help inform future meetups and stuff that we do. And then we can hang out some more. So any additions to the agenda or concerns, suggestions, questions? Anyone want to leave right now? Okay, cool, great. So let's start with the startup pitches. So Key to the Street. Do you want to take over the projector here? And hand you the mic.
I'm doing co-working, right?
You got it.
Cool. That's fairly painless. Thank you.
Awesome.
Hi.
Jess Lowry from Key to the Street.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jess. I'm the founder of Key to the Street, and what I wanted to talk to you guys about today is sort of the journey I've been on for the past year of creating my product. So Key to the Street is a web-based service that helps city planners pool all of our ideas together and get some great sort of qualitative data around what people are thinking about. So as we're in this meeting right now, it's actually not so dissimilar to what you would see if you've actually been to a city planning meeting. So raise of hands, who's been to a city planning meeting in Austin? Okay, awesome. That's really impressive. So this is probably familiar to you. What you're seeing is basically some cards that have been laid out. They've got photos of the area in question. They've got a map. They've got sort of the improvement suggestion or the solution they've come up with, and then some information for you on the details. And basically what participants are invited to do is share their feedback. So they're given these little Post-it notes, and they go around all of the cards and post their notes, which is awesome. As a UX designer, I find this to be an interesting sort of design challenge in that, people are having to think in their minds, like, what does it feel like to be standing in that part in Austin? Like, as you're in this enclosed room, imagine yourself standing at like I-35, and what does it actually feel like to be there, and providing your feedback. So that, I think, is really hard. I think it's really hard to remember the context of the place when you're in a completely different environment. So what I thought was interesting is if we look at, the purpose of what these workshops are about is, really to understand what the community needs are. So similar to what we're doing tonight, we're encouraging people to think about what their assets are. What are the things that are really important and that you want more of? And also, what are our priorities? What are we most, focused on? What do we really want to improve? And then also, as we get going, thinking down the road, people really dislike surprises, especially when all of a sudden there's all these cranes up and they don't know why, and their city's kind of being taken over, and they kind of feel like things are being done to them without their inclusion. So thinking about all of the aspects of the workshop, you've got photos, you've got location, you've got notes, you've got the community and individuals sharing ideas, and you've got audio, you can hear things. And I thought, what if you take all of these components and move them into a mobile environment? So now you actually take the workshop with you. And with Key to the Street, you actually can iterate on top of the photo that you take. So it doesn't have to be the photo that they show you. You can take your own photo. So it's very empowering, and we're basically moving away from the city telling us what's going to happen to us informing the city on what our ideas and solutions could be. So as a UX designer, I always tell people to design for the edges. And what that means is that we're looking at, the most extreme use cases. So we're designing for, people that are getting around in wheelchairs or people who are blind. We're going to solve a lot of our problems. And also understanding that cities are chaotic. That's just their inherent nature, and that's never going to change. So you can't be too prescriptive with where you expect people to be and what you expect them to do. And actually, the best solutions are usually ones that are very flexible. So instead of investing tons and tons of money into something that's very expensive, what can we do quickly and cheaply and iterate fast? And finally, streets are really about the people who walk on them. And focusing on community is incredibly important. Streets aren't safe because you've designed them that way. Streets are safe because people make them safe. So bringing the community in as much as possible, like we're doing today, is obviously incredibly important. So that's about it. So if you want to look at the design tool, you can go to the website and check it out. There's a link, and you can actually play around with it. And we're going to be launching really soon, so follow us on Twitter. That's it. Thank you. Any questions? Yeah.
So is the idea, Juanita? So is the idea that as members of the community, we walk around with your app and essentially start developing ideas for improvements and put them, design them, and then submit them some way, or?
Yeah, basically that's, the idea is sort of liberating people from the physical workshop and allowing them to do it whenever it's convenient for them. And what we're also looking at doing is creating projects. So if the city does want to task people with a specific intention, that they want information with a specific location with, a transportation issue, they can task them with that. But it also can just happen organically.
Jessica, I think you already go to the code advisory group for the Code Next rewrite.
I know of it.
Okay. Obviously in the city there's this multi-year long effort going on. There's a number of different folks who've been meeting very often to talk about the rewrite of our code. And so it seems like there's an opportunity timing-wise here to make use of this. And they've been meeting for a year, and they just held their first public outreach last week at the Carver Library. So hopefully we'll get them in a lot more neighborhoods and do a lot more of that. But it would be good for you to get that group.
Yeah, I didn't mention, one of the things I'm looking at is tapping into open data. So, as soon as we launch with the app, you'll see the interface in more detail, but there will be an area for notifications, and we can actually educate people about the construction and things that are coming up in real time when they actually open up Key to the Street.
Any other questions? You mentioned the city planning meetings. I've been to dozens of those. And the issue is that the typical meeting is preponderantly people who have an agenda and not the citizens that are going to be stuck with the solution.
Right.
And how do you deal with that? Because I've never seen one where you really get the input from the community. You're getting input from someone with self-interest.
Right. Well, I think at the end of the day, you're always going to have those advocates, those people that are really passionate about whatever that thing is that they're there to push in front of people. And what I found in online communities that's kind of interesting is that people kind of push down the content that they don't really want to see. And if they feel that there's content that's really not authentic, they can push that down. So with Key to the Street, we have ratings where people can actually rate other people's ideas, and the iteration process actually does compel people to add to each other's ideas. So you're getting this sort of building upon, getting that sort of buy-in from a larger population of people about an idea instead of one person who's just particularly loud about an issue.
Any other questions? All right, awesome. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
And next up, we will have Ride Scout.
Hi, everybody. My name is.
Disconnect us.
My name is Joseph Kopser. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Ride Scout. And if I hadn't had a chance to meet you, I'm actually kind of surprised because here in this room are literally all of my favorite transportation people and all of my favorite technology people. And the fact that you're both here in the room, all we need to do is have my wife and kids here, and it's all the people that I love in Austin. I mean that in all seriousness. I met a few of you when I first moved here 3 years ago with this idea of Ride Scout. What I came to you and said was, look, I spent 20 years in the United States Army. Of those, 15 months were in Iraq, and what I realized was I had friends and colleagues being blown up on the roads inside Iraq, delivering fuel up and down these long highways. And in the process of doing so, what I realized is the whole reason why we were there was to protect fuel. And then when I got back to the United States, I really dug into this issue of why we burn so much fuel. And then I realized we waste 6 billion gallons of fuel as Americans sitting in traffic. Why do we sit in traffic? We sit in traffic because we feel like we have to have our car to go to and from someplace reliable. And yet, all of the options are actually around you that could reduce the need to take your own car. Can you roll that up a little bit? And in the process, what I also figured out is that millennials, with their smartphones, were actually the way out of this problem. What we're creating, just so you can see the app. Here, look down. Perfect. Thank you. We created the situation where with Ride Scout, we first sought out just to actually put on the mobile phone a map with you right there in the middle and all your options. Like here in Austin with Austin B-Cycle, Car2Go, Zipcar, Cap Metro with real-time information of when buses pass by your stop. But then what we realized was, wait a minute, the ride providers, like you see in that list view, they want your butts in their seats. So there's a real market opportunity here. So first it was just to reduce our inability to see options and reduce congestion. And I'm like, wait a minute, there's a way to make money on this. And then when I went forward, I recognized that what's really happening in the United States are 4 different marketplaces developing simultaneously, and Ride Scout is the only company in the world, and I am not exaggerating that is sitting in the middle of all 4 of these marketplaces. Here they are in rapid fire. Number 1, ride for hire. Our traditional taxi market, as well as new ride for hire concepts called TNCs, Transportation Network Companies. You know them as Uber, UberX, Lyft, Sidecar. They're all competing to come pick you up wherever you are and take you where you want to go. The difference is, soon as the prices are commoditized, you won't care what platform you get in once they're all legal and allowed in the city you live in. You just want the closest. Because soon the prices are going to be almost the same. And Robert and Salik and our entire team, Brady, are combining all those options. Well, you just hit one button, and then the closest ride for hire comes and picks you up. At the end of the day, I'm sad to say, you won't care about Lyft or Uber or Yellow Cab or Austin or Longhorn. You won't care what cab company is, as long as they're legal, safe, reliable, and they charge you the amount that they have on the screen. So we're creating the only marketplace in the US, or actually in the world, that can do that. Secondly, car share. Zipcar 10 years ago said, you don't want to own the car the whole time you're in it, just when you need it. And then Car2Go said, one up beyond that, we're just going to let you drive the car wherever you want and leave it. And then Hertz and Enterprise said, wait a minute, we're sitting on 1 million cars of inventory that traditionally only rented for a day. What if you only want to rent it for a minute or an hour? So they're moving into this, and guess what they lack? a marketplace. Guess who? You want to move that again? Don't worry about it. Guess what they lack? What they lack is a marketplace that allows you, wherever you're standing in Austin or on a trip, to be able to say, what's the nearest car share near me and what's the price? So we're building it, and again, Randy, Robert, Sully, and Pedro, who can be here tonight, are building the technology on the back end. Same thing is happening right now with commuters. Some cities have not just bus and transport, but they have private companies like Bridge in Boston, Blackline in Chicago, Detroit Bus Company inside of Detroit. These are private companies like Jitneys that are filling the role of public transit because public transit can't fit all the needs all the time. Where's the marketplace for that? One place, it's RideScout. And finally, carpooling will take off. Karma's doing great things right here in Austin, but there's also RidePost and carpooling.com. There's also commuter solutions paid for by your tax dollars right here in Austin. And yet all these different databases of people going your way, you can't see them unless you belong, unless there was one place that opened up all those databases, and it's going to be RideScout. Finally, when you do drive your car, you've got tons of parking options. There's ParkWiz, Parking Panda, Park Mobile, I could go on and on. There's 6 parking companies that all want to be inside RideScout. And they're all trying to outdo each other for, well, we'll give you 20% commission, we'll give you 30% commission. Companies are now fighting over the chance to be in RideScout because everybody figured out this dream that we had 3 years ago. Build one solution, like with eBay. Build one place for retail, like Amazon. Build one place like Google to find information. We have created a ride search engine inside of our database, over 300,000 moving vehicles of all types, and over 318 transportation providers in 69 cities in the US and Canada. The US Department of Transportation 10 days ago, Secretary Fox had us up to the White House and awarded us the DOT Data Challenge Award winner for 2014. In the fall, President Obama administration recognized us as champions of change as veterans after leaving the service doing great things in clean energy. All of it started right here in Austin, Texas. We were born out of the ATI, we're in the Longhorn Startup Camp, and now we have the nation's largest transportation transit fare collector. They do the back end, they do the smart cards, they do the clipper cards, they do the venture cards. They do 50 million transactions in one day. They want to partner with RideScout. We have the largest car rental company in the world with over 1 million cars of inventory. They want to partner with RideScout. Major League Baseball and one of the largest parking people in the United States want to partner with us. And North America's largest collection of taxis, limos, shuttles want to partner with RideScout. We just finished the beginning, however you want to rephrase it, of our Series A. We have a term sheet. We don't know if we're going to do that or partner with one of these big strategics. We're at a wonderful place, a huge crossroads, because what we set out to do right here in Austin, Texas, we did it. We created a one-stop shop to let you find all your ride options, to give people the confidence that they don't have to take their car every time they go. If you drink all this beer provided by RideScout tonight, you can go to the app and you can find either Taxi Magic or Yellow Cab to get you home. As soon as my friends are allowed and legal here in the city of Austin, they'll be in the app too. The fact of the matter is, if you know you have options and you can exercise them in real time, you'll use them. It's happened in every other sector that's out there, but it's never happened in ground transportation because no one either had the talent that we have in this engineering team or the perseverance that we have. And probably the distinction is, for us, the 4 Army veterans that created this company, it is not a profession, it is a passion, because at the end of the day, we saw our brothers and sisters have to go and defend all that energy and oil that too many Americans sat in their car in Mopac, 2222, I-35, in dead still traffic and just burned out the back end.
We should go to Q&A.
Okay, thank you very much. Q&A.
You can tell he's pitched this before.
One time, too.
Yeah.
Hi, Joseph. I just wanted to let you know I downloaded the app and used it here and checked to see how long it take to get to the airport, and it updated while you were speaking.
Excellent.
And a minute to get down to Cardico, and then 14 to the airport at $8.04. 15 minutes with a cab, $24.35, or 15 minutes in my own car, $4.65. And then there's bus and
Yep.
biking. I don't think, did you put walking on here?
Walking's in there, but it's a little too far to walk, so we didn't put that in.
Okay.
But when you do get the
Yeah,
walking
yeah,
option, we show you the calories. There you go.
So it's-
So it works. That's good to know. It works in iOS and Android. Yes, ma'am.
This runs, does it work over in North Austin, like around the Gateway area?
Well, I'll tell you this, both to our members of Austin City Government, those that are in Austin Transportation Companies, it works wherever we put assets into that neighborhood. I live in Circle C, probably much like North Austin, there's not much. There's 2 buses that come in the morning, one at 6:30 or 6:52 and another 7:30 in the morning. And then that's it. That's all we have for public transportation in South Austin that far out. So you can look it up on iOS or Android and answer the question for me really to know. But we as citizens have got to be able to push options, and where public transit doesn't fill the void, that's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs like Seg Your Way, like anybody who can fill the gap of where there is a missing component, and then we just throw them inside the app and then they can be seen in the marketplace. Other questions? I appreciate the time to come and talk.
One more.
Oh wait, one more, I'm sorry, hold on.
Do you have a publicly accessible API?
Not yet, but we are very close to turning it outward, because what we want to do is make it so that not only do you see the options that you have like kayak on the front, but on the back side, we're making it so that ride providers can upload their information. So it's sort of like eBay on the back, kayak on the front, eBay on the back. We enjoy that joke. But the point being, we're going to also open up the API so the developers of any genre, any field, any capacity can build on top of this database we've created that has hundreds of thousands of moving pieces and opportunities to be able to connect them all together. One more question.
Joseph, don't forget to mention it includes bike share and cycling.
Absolutely it does. So it not only includes like Austin B-Cycle here in town, but any one of the other 26 locations they have nationwide, as well as Alta Bike wherever they are, but we are also improving the bike experience. What I want to tap into is a bike API that shows you where you can lock up your own bike or put it in the right cage, as well as improving on bike routes that are crowdsourced so they get better, like with what MapMyFitness is doing with other routes. So we're trying to tap into all of it. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
Thank you. Right, next up we have Elliot from Austin B-Cycle.
Thank you. It was good to start with Ride Scout before us, because we were actually the first B-Cycle city to partner with Ride Scout and test it out. So now, if you're a B-Cycle member here, you go to another city, you want to check out a bike there, you can use Ride Scout in another city. I am very excited to share some great news on the bike share front. Austin B-Cycle, our bike share program, has been a tremendous success from its launch. And I wanted to go over a little bit of how we got here, how it works, and some really exciting news about the future of bike share in the city. So just to give you a quick overview in case any of you aren't familiar with bike share, it is a series of stations where you can check out a bike, you can return it to any other bike. People say it's like car-to-go with bikes. If you want to see what one looks like, just walk out this building, go over to San Jacinto, and you will see a station sitting right across the street from St. David's. You buy access to the system, either a daily rate, weekly, some systems do monthly, but we go straight to semester or annual. And then basically it includes short trips. So as long as you keep your trip short, all you do is pay that access. If you go over that short period, which for us is 30 minutes, you pay a little extra. We think of it kind of like a cell phone plan. That you pay for a set amount of access. If you use it more than that, that's fine, but you just pay a little bit more. So a little history. The bike share program was launched in this last year, but just backing up a little bit, it was actually started with a federal transportation grant. And unlike most of the transportation options that have been developed here in Austin, it was actually that federal money was matched not with city money, but with private money. And so the city chose Bike Share of Austin, which became Austin B-Cycle, which is a local nonprofit organization to manage the system. And we went out and we raised $500,000 from premier local brands like Whole Foods Market, South by Southwest, Austin Ventures. Those folks wanted to commit to improving the community and saw the vision of bike share, and they each contributed funds to get us that $500,000 to make that match grant. And then last summer, The city chose V-Cycle. There are a couple different platforms you can do bike share on. They chose V-Cycle as the option, and we became Austin V-Cycle as our name. And we did some outreach to figure out where the stations would go, and then last November said bike share is here. It'll be here in December. So we phased this in. We did 11 stations in December. Then we expanded throughout the winter with the goal of 40 stations on the ground by South by Southwest. We made that goal and have actually been incrementally expanding. So we just put down 3 more stations. So how it works in Austin. This is a picture if you don't want to go outside and take a look. This is what a station looks like. We have these red bikes. You can also, great thing, there's a free app, V-Cycle, if you aren't using Ride Scout, because Ride Scout does the same thing. But if you just want bike share, you can also look up on our app, and it'll tell you in real time, both in our app and in Ride Scout, how many bikes are available, how many docks are available. So the key thing here is you always want to make sure there's a bike, and wherever you're going, you want to be able to dock that bike so you don't pay extra. So both those apps will tell you how to do that. This is a map of our 43 station system. We basically are focused on the downtown area, and we really market this. This is the fast, easy way to get around downtown. The fact of the matter is, if you walk out the building right now, you want to go to Whole Foods, you jump on our bike, you go over to Whole Foods, you'll be there faster than any other form of transportation in this town.
That's true.
You don't have to worry about traffic, parking, you just pull out the bike, go, dock it, you're done. This gives you a sense of our pricing. So we do a day pass at the kiosk. That's really ideal for visitors or if you want to just try out the system. $8 gives you unlimited rides for 24 hours. Again, as long as those rides are under 30 minutes. You can see we go up as we go up, but the real value is our annual membership if you're a local. This is 22 cents a day to have the fastest transportation option in downtown Austin. So some of our numbers. The first 6 months. So we launched in December. We just came up on our 6-month anniversary. And we did 75, almost 76,000 trips in that time. We also, just to jump down a little bit, we replaced 19,000 car trips during that time period. So those were cars that weren't out on the road, eating up the gas, getting in your way. That was double the projected usage. So we looked at all the other bike share systems in the country. We looked at what cities were like us, what cities had similar sized programs, and we doubled it. But we really had a great week during South by. If you were here during South by, you couldn't turn around without seeing these bikes. So just to give you a sense of what happened during South by Southwest, that column to the right shows you where we had been up to that point, and then we almost doubled that in 10 days. We actually, I'll jump to this next slide, we actually set a US national record for bike share systems. We beat a little city called New York, and but we crushed them actually. You see that 10.1, 7.2 is their record for the most most checkouts per bike per day. We just crushed it. Our overall average that week was 6.4. So very, very busy. Everybody was using it because all the cool kids were doing it, right? So this just gives you a sense. People use the system because it's fast, but they also use it because it's fun. We did a survey. 93% of our users love the program, and they do it because it's fast and it's fun. That's a great combination to have, by the way.
Healthy.
Was running 5 minutes late, now I'm 5 minutes early. I can't tell you how many times I use the program every day that's happened to me. But it's also changing the way people view transportation. So I think it's a transportation gateway drug. For alternative transportation, because it's fun. So 57% of our users say they're more likely to visit a business if it's near a bike share station. We have folks asking us for stations every day because they know this, that people are looking for where they're going to park the bike. Also, 48% are more likely to use transit, so we're changing the minds of people, the way they view transit, and they also view our sponsors very positively.
eating into Q&A time.
Okay, I will wrap up very quickly. Who are our riders? About half of us are from Austin, which is actually very good. Most programs are geared more towards tourists. Very young. This is, talked about millennials earlier. This is a harbinger of that. A lot of young people using the program, very well educated. We're also making a lot of progress with people who don't traditionally ride bikes. 36% of people say they haven't ridden a bike in at least a year. 36% are women, which that is one of the highest percentages of any bike share system. I know that doesn't sound good. We need to do better, but that's one of the best in the country. And 35% minority. And I just wanted to jump ahead and say what we're doing now to increase the success. So we are doing a lot of events. We are at Blues at the Green and Unplugged at the Grove every week. With an unlimited parking, so you can hop on the B-cycle, don't have to worry about traffic. We'll be at ACL Fest, at UT football games. And the big news is we're moving forward with a grant application to get some more funding that's going to be privately matched as well to triple the size of our system. So there will be a B-cycle station on every corner. And at B-cycle we say the hyphen stands for hell yeah.
So I totally love this, and mainly because my wife and I just got back from Paris, and we were riding the cycle system there, and she hadn't ridden a bike in a long time. By the end of the trip, she was like, "Can we go take another bike ride around town?" And my question is really around like the safety and I guess the etiquette of drivers. One of the things that I noticed when I was there is that like everyone, even in like the busiest of streets, I mean, people were going on their bikes and everyone was being incredibly respectful and managing that. And I'm just curious, what are we doing here to educate drivers, get appropriate bike lanes and that sort of thing?
That's a great question. What we found in other cities, and it's true here, is bike share changes the nature of streets. You have lots of new people. They're not in spandex gear and helmets doing their weekend warrior thing. They're people dressed like you and me riding bikes, and that changes the way people look at cyclists. Also, even if you never use bike share but you ride a bike, this increases your safety. It is well established in many studies that the more cyclists you have on the road, the fewer crashes that happen with cyclists. So it proportionately goes down. And so having bike share actually creates safer streets for everyone. And then to have a popular program like this, it does help drive better facilities. We want to have facilities that are safe, and we choose our bike share stations based on having good cycling facilities. So if there's a business that wants to see those 57% of people more likely to visit their business, they want a bike lane, they want a cycle track, because that's going to drive business to them.
Thanks. So a few months ago, my bike was actually stolen in San Francisco. So I ended up just buying a new one on Craigslist, but I've used your service before, it's great. But one question I had was, so you obviously know where all the stations are, but does the bike itself have a tracking device on it?
So yeah, it does. The bikes have a GPS unit in them, so if they do go missing, you do have to use a credit card or debit card to check out the system. So if a bike does go missing and it never comes back, that's a $1,200 bill on your card. So yeah. They end up coming back eventually.
Hi, this is great. I've spent a lot of time exploring the bicycle sharing systems in Bogota and Mexico City and stuff. I just want to understand a little bit the economics, and I know you're in the early stage, so maybe not last year's numbers, but next year, whatever you're comfortable with. How does it pencil out in terms of what share of the total operating costs come from the riders, what share come from advertising, what share comes from other sources?
So most systems exist on a combination of both sponsorship dollars and user fees. And we did our business plan based on that, about a 50-50 mix, which we thought was pretty conservative. We do have a lot of sponsors, a lot of partners in the community, but I can tell you today that we are the only bike share system in the country that operates 100% of our operating budget on the users.
You're 100%.
After 6 months. So anybody who's in a startup, who had to go out and get venture capital, and how long it took for you to build a market and become profitable, That's pretty
So is there
amazing.
any reason not to do these all over the world as for-profit enterprises?
He said it's operating profitable.
Right.
No, that's a good first step.
I mean, I do think, you know, the way these are operated, this is an asset of the city. We are the management company. I think from a policy perspective, you know, as we grow the system, we're very committed. You know, my background before this was in affordable housing. I'm very committed to affordability and creating affordable transportation for everybody. So we're going to be in a situation as we grow where potentially we're going to have to subsidize low performance stations.
Anybody's experimented with a free market approach in any city?
Yes, Miami has a privately operated system. B-Cycle Corporate, which is the company that supplies it, also does one in Fort Lauderdale. Only tourist cities are the only ones that have had for-profit entities.
And actually, maybe worth pointing out, we do have Spokefly here in town, which is a startup here at Capital Factory, who's I think is focused on a for-profit model, but a little bit different there. You know, it's they're not buying bikes.
Great, thank you.
Cool. We have one more question.
Going back to Paris versus Austin, isn't one of the big differences though there's strict liability for motorists in France, but that's not the case in Texas. So motorists are going to be scared of hitting bicycles because there's a lot more repercussions for motorists who hit cyclists as opposed to Texas, where you have an incentive to kill cyclists because they can't stay out.
If you're going to hit a bicyclist.
Yeah, I mean, that's a sad fact. You know, a car, if someone hits another person in a car, the best is assumed of a driver. And that's something that needs to change. That's something that, you know, a vulnerable person, a person who died or was injured, that's the same as somebody getting shot or attacked or anything else like that. Their life was impacted, and that's something that has to be changed and needs to be changed at the community level. So that is true. Having said that, bike share systems have a stellar safety record. New York City has done 8 million trips, not a single fatality, not a single major injury. And we haven't had any either, and that's true of all the systems in the US. So it does lead to safer streets, even if we still need to make those changes.
Great. All right, thanks, Elliot. Let's give a round of applause for all three speakers today. All right, so we were going to I did want to kind of have everybody introduce themselves because it's the first meetup and I thought that would make it personal, but we have about 70 people here and I'm worried that's going to take too long. So instead of that, how about we do raise of hands for issues? And Nicole, if you could help me out with this. So what we're going to do is we're going to write the different issues on the board, and some of them, I'll list out some obvious ones. Maybe first we can just brainstorm other ones that should be up there. So obviously, rail, ride sharing, bicycles, buses, parking, pedestrian. What else am I missing?
Taxi.
Taxi.
Safety.
Safe. What was that one? Yes.
Yes.
Safety. Anything else?
Land use.
Traffic.
Land use and traffic.
Affordability.
Land use.
Affordability.
And then affordability. Anyone else?
Toll roads?
Toll roads, that's a good one.
Did you say parking?
Yep. All right, we'll go through these, and if you think of any more by the end, we can mention those too. So, I don't know how you're going to do the tally marks, but well, you can figure that out. So we'll name them off, and then if you could just raise your hands if it's an issue that you're really passionate about. Let's say to keep this from everybody raising their hands for everything, you get 3 votes. Okay, on our system. So, rail. Lots of people vote rail. 1, 2, 3. 30. Okay, that makes it easier. Ride share. $24. Bicycles. $16. Buses. 34. More than rail. Parking. Parking. It's basically downtown parking. It's the only kind of parking we can talk about. I do that again. Sorry. Raise your hands again for parking. 17. All right, pedestrian, walking around. 14. And taxis. 4, 5. Might be a demographic skew. Safety. 6. Traffic.
Everybody wore out their boots.
Yeah.
It's all important.
23. Affordable housing? Oh, affordability.
That's another meetup.
Affordable transport.
Next week for that one.
How much is the fourth vote?
8. I'm selling my vote. 8, please. Land use. 7. Land use. And toll roads, tolls. 1, but it wasn't the last one, so. All right, so clearly the big winners here are, and we can talk about all these things, but this is trying to maybe help prioritize what kind of speakers we bring in and what we break up and talk about here. So rail, bus, rideshare, traffic, parking. Well, those are the big ones: rail, bus, rideshare, traffic. And then kind of next ones would be parking, pedestrian, bicycle. So not that surprising, although I didn't know that that traffic would rank that one. I wasn't sure what was next. But, and buses, I knew buses were important, but that was a good sign there too. Okay, so basically, I missed a slide. As we were putting this together, the main thing that drove this was really around ride sharing. That was just what was very top of mind because it's something that's going through city council right now. It's something that particularly kind of often touches the tech community. And so what we've been working on as a straw man is I've been talking with Uber and Lyft and Yellow Cab with the idea of trying to bring in each of them over the next few meetings to come and do kind of like one-on-one interviews and let them have a chance to kind of give their perspective on how they see things and let people ask questions of them, hopefully in a trying to keep this in a very constructive manner as opposed to like a debate or something like that. And so I think we've got most of those lined up for the next 3. Did you guys think the startup pitches were fun and interesting? Is that good? The idea was try to do that at every meeting to just keep it interesting. So I don't know if we can do 3 every time or we have 1 go every time or something like that, but try to keep it lively with that. And then do these types of discussions, at least for the next few. And I would expect that by the time we start getting through the ride sharing stuff, rail is going to suddenly be this kind of the next big issue. But it is kind of open to other stuff, and I think I'm sure there'll continue to be lots of issues. I don't think we're going to solve the transportation problem anytime soon. So what we're going to suggest we do next is really try to get more people involved in, I'll readjust these breakout groups in a second here, but get more people involved in helping to figure out what we should do next and really like everybody's input in that. Another thing we're going to ask for at the end is any volunteers of other people that want to help organize this and put some of the next few meetings together. So what we'd like to do is get into breakout groups, and we'll point to different areas of the room. We'll only take about 15 minutes to do this, so it'll go really fast. So please stick with us through this. But the idea is you break into groups for 15 minutes. In smaller groups, you can talk about brainstorm about what you think are the issues that we'd want to talk about in the group, both issues and people, who would be really interesting people to talk to or to get up on stage. And any other formats other than, kind of like interview format or pitch format kind of things that you think are interesting. And then with each group, we'll have either you can self-designate or I already have some volunteers for leaders in those groups. And that way somebody can kind of take notes and be a spokesperson. We come back together after 15 minutes, and each of the spokesperson from each group can get up and kind of share for 5 minutes what they came up with and what they thought about. And then from there we'll kind of break the formality and people can meet and network and things like that. So it sounds like the issues should be, again, rail, rideshare, buses, and traffic. So you just change this one to, yes?
Just so as long as you're changing it.
Yeah, go for it.
I find it almost impossible to talk about bus without talking about rail and bicycles. They have so much overlap. I know it's all good, but they really are. If you look at most of the evidence, they are alternatives for most of
You think like public transportation, basically just group those two together?
It's just what I'm throwing out. And the other thing is taxis and ride sharing are really so tightly. No. Okay. Well, Uber and Yellow Cab are tightly related. But anyway,
Okay.
I thought I'd turn that out.
Any other thoughts on that? Is it worth keeping bus and rail separate, or should we combine them?
I second.
Combine them?
Yeah, I mean, it's called public transport, basically.
Okay. Do we want a fourth one, or should we just do 3 groups? Parking, there's a vote for it?
Yeah, parking is still pretty high up there, right?
More smaller groups.
Parking, bicycle, something. Okay, should we do 5 groups?
Yeah.
All right, we'll do 5 groups. Okay, so I know I've got some volunteers. So Nate volunteered to do the bicycle one. So Nate's in the back. Nate, go wave your hand. So if you're interested, so I'm going to say this all first before you move. So nobody move. Okay? Bicycles are going to go back there in that corner. Ride sharing can come up here. Bus and rail, maybe Rich, do you want to raise your hand? And we've got traffic and parking. Traffic and I guess rideshare in the back, parking up in the front. That makes sense? So bicycles, rail and bus, traffic, parking, rideshare. Go. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's everybody quiet down. We'll try to get everyone out here on their respectable time. First up, we're going to have Nate share what they found with bikes. It wasn't just bike sharing, it was bikes in general. By the way, before we do that, can Nicole, who's been sitting over here quietly, help to organize all of this and make it all happen? Maybe we can run and she's also been tweeting and taking notes and stuff as this went. So thank you, Nicole, and we'll make sure to write all these comments down. So first up is Nate from Spotify.
All right, so we talked about bikes. It's a lot of the same things that you'll hear, anytime we talk about bikes and transportation. Focus on infrastructure, a focus on education, and that's both driver education. So, there's a lot of nonprofits like Please Be Kind to Cyclists that are working on things around education and driver and cyclist interaction. And then we also talked about kind of employer and infrastructure support outside of traditional bike lanes. So shower facilities and other employer incentives to make it easy for people to take a bus and their bike and get to work or ride their bike to work and still be able to wear normal clothes. Not all of us are startups and come to work every day in a t-shirt. I think some people we wanted to see, maybe somebody from Please Be Kind to Cyclists or Movability Austin. There's also someone named Chad, I think Krieger, who deals with the bike lanes at the city of Austin, who would be interesting to hear from and kind of how they decide where to put bike lanes and what the city's policy is on infrastructure.
Awesome, cool. Good suggestion, thanks.
So we're going to chat about ride sharing or ride for hire.
Introduce yourself, please.
I'm Jeffrey. I'm a designer at Squarefoot. So I don't work directly in the transportation space. I work in storage, which is kind of completely against transportation stuff. But whatever.
Successful move.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
we're making things more efficient in terms of land use. So the things that we talked a lot about were deregulation. How are the cities regulating taxi cabs? Are they regulating Uber and Lyft, ride for hire companies like that? how do medallioning systems work? What does the fee structure look like for those? We're really interested in, what is the financial structure of a taxi cab company? So it's really great that we already have Yellow Cab, Uber and Lyft folks lined up to speak at future meetings. Some of the things we talked about were the transparency of fees, both for taxis and for Uber and Lyft, location stuff. Background checks is kind of a huge thing. We would all love to get to this utopia of I'm going this way so you can share my car with me, but there's kind of a safety issue around that. So we'd love to know more about background checks and what companies are doing around that. And can that be a thing that is regulated well for Uber and Lyft type of companies? Other things we talked about were intercity ride sharing. That's a topic that doesn't come up very often. How do you hitchhike in the 21st century, basically? And how do you actually get capacity for true peer-to-peer ride-sharing services? Other ones in the past have not done too well, and that's kind of where Lyft and Uber kind of filled that void between the taxis and the true peer-to-peer services. Yeah, that's about it.
You talk about the number of cabs?
That came up, yes. Caps on number of cabs, yeah. I'd love to learn more about that.
Just throwing one more tip. So for me, it's like, I feel like if you look at other cities, the insurance, the background checks, and the inspections are fairly straightforward as far as what to do, but it's like the limits on the number of cabs and then the accessibility for remote areas and people with disabilities and stuff. Those are the two I'm still not sure what the answer is on. Cool. Thanks.
My notes are sloppy.
You're going to read your hand. Okay. My name is Rich McKinnon. I'm with the City of Austin Urban Transportation Commission and also the Cap Metro Customer Satisfaction Advisory Committee. And this is Sarah Lamine from ATX Safer Streets.
Hi. All right, so my bad handwriting here. So what we talked about is kind of mapping out areas of congestion in Austin, the outlying areas, as well as doing, as well as mapping out the park and rides. And then discussed adding extra buses during times of congestion to ease the congestion from those park and rides. We would like to bring in staff to explain how the park and rides are chosen. We would like to have more open data from Cap Metro and the city that I think will go a long way in kind of transparency in how the city and Cap Metro make their decisions. So for Project Connect, we'd like to bring in
Right.
That's my project.
Okay, so this is a general scratch about Cap Metro and how they do their service planning.
Oh, great. Fancy. All right, so we want to bring in some people from Project Connect, either Kyle Kenny or Todd Hemmingson, to discuss that in general and also to discuss how Project Connect can get the word out better about themselves, their market penetration, which some people feel is weak. We wanted to bring in somebody from Houston's Frequent Service that's just gotten underway, to spokesperson to come in and discuss how they're doing their grid system. We would like to get a land use expert and affordability expert to show how public transportation ties into those two things. And then Cap Metro speaker to also discuss how Cap Metro decides what's going on for special events, how they plan the extra routes, more frequent service, etc. We also discussed getting a timeline for real-time data for Cap Metro. Metro Rapid has it now, but not the rest of Cap Metro.
That's real-time arrival information.
Yeah, sorry. That's why I brought you up here. And then we also and this would go more into parking enterprise really, but we would like somebody to discuss bringing in more park and rides in Central Austin.
I think that point was, what are your various parking options in the downtown, which is different from how are the park and rides on the outskirts selected? What are your parking options for downtown? And then the last point was a question about how many people are you going to wear at Project Connect? What's the outreach effort so that people know that that's the website you go to? I was just wondering though, how many people know what Project Connect is? And how many people don't know what Project Connect is?
I just heard the name, I don't really know what it is.
Okay.
Besides, I know it wants rail, but doesn't like some rail over other rail.
Right. Okay. All right. That's good. All right. Thank you.
You have one more group? Is that all of them?
Yes.
We weren't really organized, but we just talked about parking in Austin and alternative.
Do you want to try?
Anything out of that?
Grab it.
You basically just volunteered.
All right, Brady.
He's the Grady.
Alright, well, my name's Grady. I'm an iOS developer for Ride Scout. We just kind of talked about how we could make parking better. We talked about Seg Your Way and how that would just lessen the number of cars that are on the road, which would obviously lessen the number of people who have to park wherever they're going, because you could just park the Segway on the sidewalk. So I think it's a great idea, and I think that is something that hopefully is in our future. And then maybe bring in Parking Panda or someone like that we could talk to, see more how they work and how we could utilize them to use up the open parking spaces that no one's using. So yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks. All right, so that was the plan for the regularly scheduled program. I did see Chris Riley join us as well, City Council, so thanks for being here today. Thanks, Chris. So again, in the interest of having a plan and keeping things moving, our current plan is to get Ed Cardbow from Yellow Cab in. I think that's a perspective, at least particularly from, not that this is just the tech community, but there's probably more tech community here than in other places, where I think his voice hasn't necessarily been heard by the tech community, so give a chance for him to share that and for us to ask questions of him and ask questions about the economics of cabs and things like that were coming up. We're working on the founder of Lyft. He's, we were trying to get him here for tonight. We weren't able to do that for this one, but working on him for another one. And then I don't think we'll get the founder of Uber, but we should definitely at least hopefully have somebody from Uber here to speak as well. And Uber's pretty big, so there's a lot of different interesting people we can bring in here. So that was kind of the general idea, was over the next 3, have one from each of those present, and more startups as well. But we definitely would really love everyone's input on this, and in particular, if you're interested in volunteering and helping to organize one of the meetups, love to talk to you about that. And we're going to take all the feedback everybody gave and incorporate that into some plans for some other future ones coming up. So, anyone want to say any last words before we break up? Anything we missed or should be talking about? Or come on up.
Sorry, I just
that's okay.
So we were asking about Project Connect, and I was just curious how many people find that people have heard of it. How many people think that it serves their transportation needs? Yeah. So another thought that I had, I just wanted to kind of throw this out as a kind of a thought experiment. Something I've been doing as I'm driving is imagining as I'm driving down Mopac that I'm actually on a form of public transportation. And the form of public transportation that I'm on is one where there are variable seats. The people in front of me are in a seat on this bus. And every time the traffic moves, they move out way in front of me. And when I move, then I finally get to follow them. And now it's this huge slinky. So if I imagine this Mopac as this huge train, this long slinky, stretching out and compressing, and stretching out and compressing. One of the thoughts that I have about the way that the transportation problem is solved right now, it's not really thinking about high efficiency. I mean, train and rail, bus, those things are very compact. The amount of real estate that it takes to actually move a large number of people is a very different metric than what we have in transportation. Somehow to communicate that to people so people can visualize what that experience is. Now that I've seen that in my mind's eye, I cannot stand to drive my car, and I want solutions that give me an opportunity to do something different.
Cool. We will have a slinky as well. Interesting suggestion. I think, there's lots of things to consider. Anyone else? Anything to add? Joseph?
As the sponsor, download the app and you drink some beer and eat all food.
Yeah. So our sponsor says, drink some beer and food, or eat some food, drink some beer, and download Ride Scout. Cool. Well, thank you all for joining. Hang out and chat with other people that are here, and I'll see you at the next meetup.